Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video is our Scrap Happy pattern for our year-long crochet along, the Scrap Happy Crochet Along. And I put this out there a little bit last week asking for names of what you think we should call this new pattern. I chose colors that were in blues and beiges, and I just randomly striped them, and I really love how it looks. I wanted it to have a little bit of a beachy feel because it is for summer. That's why it's this open mesh stitch that's super easy. And I put this pattern at a beginner because it's a great beginner pattern for learning how to make a triangle shawl. But you don't have to be a beginner. You can be an expert also and make this pattern. Now, the name I decided to choose was a combination of a couple different people who put in some names. And so I went with the Summer Breeze Wrap Shawl. I decided not to go with a beachy theme because you can make this in any colors that you want. It would be beautiful in ombres or some of the striping yarns, or just get in your scraps, because this is a scrap happy pattern, and come up with beautiful colors. Just put them all together and have some fun and make a fun wrap shawl. Now, I wanted to call it a wrap shawl because it's perfect for putting on your shoulders early in the morning or maybe late at night when it cools off. You're running around in your tank top or your sundress and you just want a little something on your shoulders. But it's also perfect for wrapping around your waist and having it around your bathing suit and look really pretty. We ended with this gorgeous and easy open shell stitch, and it adds just a wonderful sort of shell touch to this shawl. So it's super easy and super quick. If you make it according to the pattern that I have written, you're going to get a shawl that's about 50 inches across and measures about 25 inches deep. And the nature of this particular style is that it gets wider and longer the more rows that you add. And if you want it to be even bigger than what I have made, you can add more rows. If you want it smaller, maybe you're making it for a young child, you can do less rows. The key is to measure as you go and make it the size that you need. Now you can find this complete pattern with pictures to help you out, and I have provided that link down in the notes underneath this video. Now, to make the Summer Breeze wrap shawl, you're going to need a total of about 7 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn. I chose to use acrylics. You could use cotton if you want to. I just don't really like it out at the beach or at the pool when it gets wet because the cotton gets just a little bit heavy, but you can use that if you want to. I chose to use some Red Heart Super Saver, some Vanna's Choice, and some other acrylic yarns that I had on hand in blues and beiges just to make it have that beachy theme. And again, you can use whatever colors that you have on hand. You're just going to need about 7 ounces to complete the project. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle just for weaving in ends, and of course you'll need a pair of scissors. We're going to be starting at the top of the shawl and work our way down back and forth. So this is considered a top-down shawl. And so we're going to begin with whatever color that you choose. We're going to make our slip knot and chain 4. Now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. And then we'll do that again. Our chain 3 will count as 1, and we stitched 2 more. Now we're going to chain 2. And we're going to stitch 3 more double crochets in that same stitch. And then we're going to chain 4. And so this is how row 1 should look. We have 3 double crochets, we chain 2, and 3 double crochets, and then we chained 4. We're going to do row 2 next, and on row 2 we're going to begin the mesh work stitches. Our chain 4 counts as a double crochet, chain 1. We're going to turn our work and double crochet in the same stitch or the first stitch of our row, and then chain 1. Now we'll go to the next double crochet, chain 1. Then we'll go to the next double crochet, chain 1. This brings us to the chain 2 space in the center, and we're going to stitch a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in that center stitch, which is a chain 2. Then we'll chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. This brings us to our last stitch, and we're going to stitch a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in that last stitch. All right, we'll go ahead and chain 4, and then we'll take a look at it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with chain 1s in between, and then in our point we have a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And that is the way that row 2 should look. Now once you've done row 2, the rest of the shawl is super duper easy. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, I need to chain 1 more because we need a chain 4. We're going to turn our work, double crochet in that first stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, and chain 1. So there's our first side. That brings us to the chain 2 space in the center. And then we'll double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in that same chain 2 space and chain 1. And that forms the point of our shawl. And then we'll just work our way up this other side. We've already chained 1, so we'll double crochet in the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next double crochet, and chain 1, and repeat this up the side. That brings us to our last stitch, and when we get to that last stitch, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Whoops, get in there, and chain 4. And so what we're doing is you're increasing by a double crochet, chain 1 at the beginning and end of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have our double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet at the point. Super easy, right? And it makes a really nice summer weight shawl. And that's how row 3 should look. All right, so let's do row 4. We have our chain 4. We're going to turn our work. Again, double crochet in that first double crochet and chain 1. And then we'll stitch 1 double crochet, chain 1 in each of the double crochets, working down to the point of our shawl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now brings us to the point. We chain 1, and in that point of our shawl, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet, and then chain 1, and then we work our way back up. Double crochet, chain 1 in each of the double crochets. And I think you're seeing already that this moves along rather quickly. And that makes a nice project if it moves quickly. So now I'm to my last stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in that last stitch, and chain 4. So now for row 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on each side, and then our double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet at the bottom point. And look at that, it's already looking like a shawl shape. All right, let's do row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've chained 4. We're going to turn our work. Again, double crochet in that first double crochet and chain 1. And then we'll repeat what we did on the previous row, stitching a double crochet, chain 1 in each of the double crochets. This would make a great take-along project because once you get the pattern figured out, super duper easy. All right, so here I am at this last double crochet on this side, chain 1. I'm at the point of my shawl, so I'm going to stitch a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in that bottom point, chain 1, and then repeat working up this side, stitching double crochet, chain 1 in each of the double crochets. Alrighty, here's my last double crochet, chain 1, then I reach that last stitch and we stitch a double crochet, whoops, chain 1 and double crochet in this last stitch and chain 4. So for row 5 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on each side, and then our double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Now if I accidentally say chain 1 in this point corners, it's a chain 2 only on the center point of the shawl. All the other ones are chain 1s, but the ones down the center at the point is a chain 2. So if I accidentally say chain 1, it's just an accident. They're all chain 2 in the center. All the other ones are chain 1s. Let's do row 6. Now I do want to remind you that you always need to have a chain 4 here because it counts as a double crochet, chain 1 at the beginning of each row. All right, so we're going to double crochet in the same stitch, chain 1, and then we'll work our way down. Stitching double crochet, chain 1, all the way down till we reach that corner. So I stitched all the way down, double crochet, chain 1, Now I'm to that point or corner, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in the chain 2 space, chain 1, and then we'll continue up stitching our double crochet, chain 1 on this other side. I completed row 6. Remember, we need to have a chain 4 here. We have 12 double crochet chain 1s, our double crochet chain 2 double crochet in our chain 2 space, and then 12 double crochet chain 1s on this side. All right, let's do row 7. So we have our chain 4, we're going to double crochet in the same stitch, and then again we're just basically going to repeat what we did on row 6. We'll just have more double crochets because we're increasing every row. So I have completed row 7. On row 7 you're going to have 14 double crochets, chain 1, then you'll have your double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in that chain 2 space, and then again you'll have chain 1, double crochet, and there'll be 14 double crochets on this side. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat what we've been doing on row 7 for 22 more rows. And that's going to get you a shawl that's going to be approximately 50 inches wide and I think 20, let me look at my notes again. Yes, it's going to be 50 inches wide and 25 inches deep. Now, you can decide if you want your shawl bigger or smaller. You're making it maybe for a child, you can do less rows. And so what you'll need to do is take your tape measure and just measure as you go to see how wide you want it. The thing about a shawl is the width of it should be either the height of the person or their hand span, which usually is the same. I'm approximately 5'2", and so I'm going to want mine to be about 5 feet 2 inches wide. But again, it depends on you and the preference of the person you're making this for. So, having said all of that, if you want to make this according to the measurements that I have, which are 50 inches wide by 25 inches deep, you're going to need to repeat row 7. You'll be increasing every row, and you'll need to repeat for 22 more rows. So here is my actual Summer Breeze shawl, and I have stitched those initial 7 rows, and then I stitched 22 more rows, and that's going to get you a total of 29 rows. And again, measure it, make sure it's the size that you want, make it bigger, make it smaller, however you want to do that. And that's the neat thing about this particular pattern, is it's completely adjustable for whatever size that you need. Also keep in mind, as it gets wider, it also gets longer. I'm going to continue using this swatch that I'm working on, but you need to do this on your actual shawl, all right? I'm just not going to make 2 complete shawls to show you how to do the trim. So once your shawl is the size that you need, you want to make sure that you end up over here on the right. We'll cut our yarn. Of course, you don't have to cut your yarn. You can stick with whatever colors that you're using. I want to switch to a little bit lighter yarn. That way you can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to bring in our yarn, snug it down, and we're going to stitch an even row of single crochets across the top of our shawl. And when you do that on the top of a shawl, you want to make sure that you stitch those single crochets in the sides of the stitches and not the holes. You get a much better and smoother appearance if you stitch in the stitches. If you stitch in these holes, it'll gape and pull. All right? There is not an even number of stitches that you need across. You just want it to look pretty and even. And again, stitch in the stitches on the sides. If you can at all possible, do that and make a nice even row of single crochets. All right, the way this is going to work is we're going to stitch across the top, then we'll do our shell stitches all the way around the bottom. We'll make our first tie, then we'll slip stitch in those single crochets and make our second tie. That way we don't have to cut our yarn. We just smoothly move around and not have to add or cut yarn if at all possible. As I'm all about working smarter, not harder when it comes to weaving in the ends. All right, so I'm going to work across the top of my swatch. You need to work across the top of your shawl, evenly single crocheting across. I have evenly single crocheted across the top of my swatch. And of course, your shawl is going to be a lot bigger. And so what you'll do when you get to the end, we're going to turn so that we can work down the side of our shawl. We're going to single crochet in the first chain one space. We're going to skip the next chain one space and we're going to stitch the open shell stitch in the next. So we'll double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, and double crochet all in that same chain one space. That's an open shell stitch. And I think it looks really good with this particular pattern because it is an open mesh. We're going to skip the next chain one space and single crochet in the next. Now we'll skip the next chain one space and stitch our open shell stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, and double crochet all in the same chain one space. Skip the next chain one space and single crochet in the next. And what you're going to do is you're going to repeat this, working all the way down and then all the way back up the other side to join back to that first single crochet. All right, and don't worry about where your shell stitch or your single crochet ends up because you just want to move around that bottom point. So I continued to stitch my open shell stitch, skip one chain one space, single crochet in the next, skip the next chain one space, open shell stitch all the way around my swatch. And again, you're going to have more. And when you get around here, you want to join to that first single crochet. And I do want to tell you, when you've added rows or subtracted rows, it may not equal exactly the same here. You may have to not skip one of the chain one spaces, or maybe you ended up on the shell stitch up in the corner. It's okay. It's not going to matter. Just do your best to make it work out and lay pretty. All right, and this is how your shell stitch row should look. And the point isn't really pointed anymore. It kind of goes to a rounded bottom edge. So once you've got your trim all added, you're going to join back up here to your first single crochet. And now we're going to add the tie. And the tie is really nice to have on the two sides of your shawl to keep it on your shoulders so you don't have to worry about, keep putting it back on. But also great for if you're going to use it as a bathing suit cover up, you can tie it on. All right, so what we're going to do is chain 30. I've chained 30. And now what you're going to do is you're going to double crochet in the second chain from the hook. All right, and then we'll slip stitch in that same stitch, and that'll form a little bobble on the end of your tie. And then we'll slip stitch back down the tie and join back to our side of our shawl. One slip stitch in each of those chains. I slip stitched back down that chain. I'm going to slip stitch in that first single crochet, and now we're just going to slip stitch across the top of our shawl, placing one slip stitch, which is go in, pull up a loop, pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And we'll do this working all the way across the top of our shawl. And this does two things. It sort of tightens it up a little bit so that your shawl across holds its shape and doesn't stretch out of shape too much, because it just gives it a little bit more of a sturdiness. And it also looks really pretty with that little extra braid going across the top. All right, so you're going to slip stitch all the way across the top of your shawl. And then once you've slip stitched all the way across the top of your shawl, we're going to repeat over here what we did here. We're going to chain 30. We'll put that double crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then slip stitch back up and join to our shawl. And so again, I slip stitched all the way back up my chain. I'm going to join to my shawl there and cut my yarn. And then we'll just weave that in, pull that loop to the back. There we go. And then we'll take our needle and weave in all the ends. Now, if you changed colors throughout your shawl, you may have used a Russian join or another method, but make sure you get all those ends weaved in securely. So now here is the completed Summer Breeze wrap shawl. We have ties to tie it on so it doesn't fall off, or you don't have to add those ties, of course, with this fun open shell trim all the way around the bottom. It's open, it's lacy, it's breezy, it's summery. Our Summer Breeze wrap shawl bathing suit cover for our Scrap Happy Crochet Along for this month.